Welcome to day 3 of the body work on our 1978 Datsun 280Z. We have a little bit of metal prep that we need to do. There's a little dent over here in the right hand side rear taillight area that we need to work on. There's a little bit of areas where we replaced the quarter panels, the lower rear quarter panels in a previous video that I need to do some additional work before we start painting over that and then do filler and high build and sealer on top of all that. We're gonna get busy with all the basically undenting the dents in this, and then we have a little bit of rust repair we have to do in the door jamb area. Unfortunately, that's gonna be a little bit more welding, but we have the leftover parts of our rocker panel that we replaced in this video that we're gonna just be able to cut off the top and put in that door jamb top. So there should be 2 quick and easy repairs, and then we're gonna DA sand the entire body and get it ready for the epoxy primer. Did you catch that? Here, I'll play it again for you real quick. See if you can pick up on that last like 3 seconds of that time lapse. And I know it's a time lapse. It may not look like a lot happened, but let me explain those last few seconds. Yep, that's right. I almost cut my finger off. All right, so let me break down what happened. I didn't follow my own rules. I'm always preaching to you guys, you know, be safe, be smart, think about what you're doing before you actually do it. And more importantly, don't get in a rush, don't get in a hurry, because that's when mistakes happen. I've been doing this long enough to know, typically when I'm about to hurt myself, usually that's because I'm having a thought about when this goes wrong, what's going to happen. Is the wrench going to slip off the bolt or the nut that I'm trying to tighten? And if I'm pushing, what's going to happen is I'm going to slip off and I'm going to punch whatever's in front of it. And usually that's how busted knuckles happen, right? So I've learned over the years that you position yourself to mitigate those issues, which is always my response to that is I pull. I do not push on nuts or bolts because I've had wrenches slip off more times than not, and probably you have too if you're into mechanicking. So I always, when I'm tightening or loosening, I'm always doing it in a pulling fashion. I position myself somewhere to where I'm pulling and never pushing. Same thing with like flat blade screwdrivers. I've almost impaled myself many, many times when that screwdriver slips off. So I put my support hand away from where I'm trying to tighten, because it will leverage and slip off. And when that happens, you don't want your hand to be right there to catch that flat blade screwdriver. So there's many instances when you're in the garage where you're doing something like that, and as soon as you have the thought, if you stop, if you complete that thought, even in your head, most of the time, whatever you think's going to happen occurs. So that wrench is going to slip off, you're going to break your knuckles, that screwdriver is going to stab your hand. So you get that with experience and with injuries. And I always preach safety because of those experiences in the past. I have had wrenches slip off. I've cut my fingers open. I've busted my knuckles open. And I want to prevent you guys from doing that because it creates downtime. And downtime doesn't help these things get finished. It actually takes away from the enjoyment. There's pain in the process and all that stuff. So we say blood, sweat, and tears for a reason, but you're not supposed to actually, you know, relish in the fact to bleed. You know, so you don't actually want that to happen. So I always preach safety. I wear, you know, little 5mm gloves for stuff that I'm, you know, oil changes and things like that, because I don't want, you know, oil seeping into my skin and causing skin cancer over the years. Those things are important. So I wear these little 5mm gloves for things that I'm going to be changing gloves on often. I wear the 7mm for something that needs a little bit more durability. Those are the thicker gloves. I actually like those way better than the 5mm, but for painting, and things that just get dust and debris on them, these things are freaking awesome. The 7mm for any kind of mechanicking, keeps the grease, keeps the oils off your skin, especially if you have open cuts or anything like that. You don't want that stuff getting into your bloodstream. So I always preach, you know, wear the safety glasses, wear the welding helmets, well, wear the grinding hoods. These things are really, really cheap. I've actually got a much better welding hood coming. Because this has kind of opened my eyes to maybe put a little bit more time and effort into protecting my eyes. My old Chicago Electric Harbor Freight welding helmet flashed me one too many times. I had to get the job done, so I went out and bought this one, but I also ordered one off Baker Gas and Supply. If you sign up for their emails and you're a new user, you get an additional $25 off your first order over like 50 or 150 bucks, whatever the minimum is. The welding helmet that I was looking at was the Lincoln Viking 3350 in the American livery. So I got that one coming, but you know, invest in a grinding hood. This thing was like 30 or 40 bucks, even with safety glasses that I usually put on. Even under that and the welding helmet, you still have stuff come up and hit your cheeks and can still fly into your eyes. Your eyes are important. You can't replace them. You lose one, that's it. You can't see out of that eye anymore. And the reason I'm so adamant about that is because my grandpa actually was blind in one eye. He lost an eye when he was young. He was chopping wood and had a splinter go in his eye, and that was the end of that. So I kind of grew up around that aspect of safety, of protect yourself, and especially when you're doing things in and around the shop with flying debris and grinding and welding and things like that. So this for me is relatively easy to comprehend and put into practice. Lungs, you need to wear the dust masks. This is just the little Miller half face mask. Comes with 2 little filters. These things are like 30, 35 bucks. Really inexpensive. Great for keeping out what I call the black boogers. So if you've ever used the grinding discs or cutoff wheels or sanding blocks or anything like that, the little painter's dust masks don't do anything. You'll have a ring around your face, and you'll still have all kinds of dust and debris up in your nostrils by the end of the night, and you'll still be blowing out black boogers in the shower. So this really helps prevent that. For the paint side of things, full-on Respirator. There's no replacement for it. It's got a little pre-filter, and then it's got charcoal activated organic vapor filters in there, and I'm actually going to get another one of these because this one's worn out, and they have the old style filters that do not fit my new style filters. Many of you don't know, or just don't care, or don't practice this, but after these organic vapor cartridges have been open for more than like 7 days, they are no good. The charcoal has pretty much activated to the point of its useful lifespan. So if you're not changing these filters out weekly, then you're not protecting yourself from the organic vapors of like spraying in a spray booth or things like that. So once these things have been open, I extended a little bit longer than that. Even me, I go over about 14 days. But again, as a hobby shop guy, this can get really expensive really quick. So I buy like a 6-pack at a time, and I plan my spraying accordingly. So I'm going to spray epoxy primer, immediately followed up with a high build primer, things like that. That way I'm spraying in a couple of days span, and I don't go through these like candy. So keep that in mind. Which brings me to my third and final point. I'm always, talking about gloves and stuff. So these are just leather gloves. I usually wear these when I'm grinding. And then I have welding gloves, obviously for the heat. You don't want to burn yourself. So I have a couple sets of MIG gloves, a couple sets of TIG gloves. But these are my old MIG gloves. They're just cheap leather gloves. And normally I wear them. If you weren't watching that last little time lapse, screaming at your screen, because I typically scream at you to do the right thing, you should have been. Because had I had these on, this probably wouldn't have happened. And if it would have happened, it wouldn't have been as severe. What happened was I was grinding down that last little bitty tack of burn through where I had originally ground down everything, welded in our last patch panel, ground down all the seams, and then had one little spot where it was burned through or ground through. So I tacked that up again, was grinding that and radiusing it out when I was hitting the button, the off button on the grinder, and it just caught a lip and snatched my fingernail into the backside of that flap wheel grinding disc. So it happens that quick. Normally when something like that happens, not a big deal. Go rinse it out and put some shop towels or paper towels on it and wrap it in electrical tape, get a little pressure on it, and put some gloves on, little, throwaway gloves, and I keep working. It's not that big of a deal. As soon as that happened, I didn't feel any pain. So that was my first indication that this is probably going to start hurting in a few seconds. And then the blood started coming. So it basically cut down about halfway through my fingernail, and it took a huge chunk of skin out and almost ripped the fingernail completely off. So I kind of knew immediately. Obviously the grinding disc was winding down at that time, so I wasn't worried about an angle grinder jumping around on the floor. I threw off. I was wearing this, but it was only halfway there, so I should have had gloves on. Prevent these types of injuries. I was rocking and rolling on day 3, getting a lot of this stuff done. And I was already thinking about the next thing that I had to do. I was going to DA sand the entire thing, clean up the little spray area, de-dust everything, and probably get ready to wax and grease remove and start spraying the next day. So obviously that cut things short. Threw off the helmet, took out my earplugs, and by that point in time, it was dripping blood. So, like I said, normally not that much blood, not that big of a deal. Went and rinsed it off and realized like just how bad it was. So I decided to take a break, go clean everything out for a couple hours. And then that's when the real kind of realization of how, I know it's just a fingertip, but the real kind of realization of how bad the injury really was. Obviously, I still have my finger. I'm still grateful for that. But you hurt yourself bad enough, you get the pain in the back of your neck, you feel nauseous, you feel dizzy. And I didn't lose a ton of blood or anything like that, but it definitely hit a nerve. So tip of the finger is pretty numb right now. Didn't go to the hospital, don't need to do any of that. Just got to keep it clean and infection free. So decided to take the rest of the day off, and that's a good point to kind of end this video. So obviously I was wanting to have a lot more accomplished today on day 3. I thought it would be beneficial for you all and a little bit of humble pie for me to go over some shop safety. I know it's not fun. I know it's more of the boring side of things, but it's real and you need to pay attention, and you probably should be a little bit more safe. Even someone like me who tells you to be safe all the time still does stupid things from time to time. So don't follow everything I do, especially stuff like this. So don't be an idiot. Keep working on your projects. Stay safe. I'll see you guys next time. If you found this video useful, please click that like button. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing and turn on your bell notifications. That way you get notified just as soon as I heal up and get around to posting another video. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. And until next time, thanks for watching this one.